All right, welcome to Out of the Blue from the Block M Podcast Network, part of the Fan First Sports Network. In all your years, you've never seen the like of it. Nearly 500 pods, and we're still on the air. That's podmanship, Mr. Bailey. By God, that's podmanship. I am Jared Stormer of the Block M Podcast Network and MaizenBrew.com. With me, as always, is Andy Bailey, my hetero life mate of the same place and time. Andy Bailey, if it came from a lesser man, you would dismiss it as mere enthusiasm and say, oh, what pitiful stuff. But it comes from my dear friend, Andy Bailey. Happy New Year, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, brother. How was your New Year's?
Tremendous. Still in Barcelona, last week here in Spain, and then back stateside for a while. But it's been great. Been enjoying it. Appreciate you and Tony for adjusting time zones with me, particularly with all the sports that are going on. This is a loaded podcast. We've got a lot that we need to get through. Multiple sports going on, a regime change happening at Michigan football, the transfer portal certainly alive and well. A lot of transition, a lot of turnover, a lot to get through. So I say we get into it, unless you have any objections, brother, unless you'd like to talk in a, Task, great show on HBO.
We'll have some thoughts on Task later, maybe for a different pod, but let's get into it, man. Let's start 2026 off right.
Let's touch the banner here. A little bit of a college football playoff recap. Down goes Goliath as Ohio State loses to Miami. I was watching till 4 a.m. my time because you just got to stay up when there's a chance that they go down. They lose their last two and now are presented with the ultimate would you rather question as they beat Michigan but fail to win the Big Ten championship, fail to win a national championship. Ousted by the hands of Miami, which kind of hurts a little bit for us because we hate Miami and more so Carson Beck. I have really no problem with Miami, but I certainly hate Carson Beck. You want to know what I hate more? The Ohio State Buckeyes. So great hate watch on that one.
Enemy of an enemy is a friend at this point in battle. So had no problem rooting for Carson Beck. Felt a little dirty about it, but we powered through. And interesting for Mario Cristobal, he beat Ryan Day in 2021 in week 2, and Oregon came to Columbus and got the job done. CJ Stroud's second start, and now did it again. So Ryan Day had a Michigan problem, but I think he also has a Mario Cristobal problem. But I will say, rooting for Mario Cristobal to close out a game against Ohio State is not an experience I want to repeat. That was nerve-wracking.
Yeah, rooting for Carson Beck was like removing my own fingernails with pliers. I didn't care for it, but we do what we have to do. Just couldn't have back-to-back Ohio State national championships, especially if they beat Michigan and then won back-to-back. Look, I mean, that tips the scales and we'd never hear the end of it. So, and now still alive, Indiana, Miami, Ole Miss, Oregon. We're going to have a new national champion and potentially one that hasn't won either ever or in a long time in the case of Miami. It's an interesting field. Ole Miss gets past Georgia in probably the most exciting game of the weekend. Really good game. And Ole Miss, I mean, Lane Kiffin, hilarious outcome there if they go on to win this. If Indiana wins it, that's probably one of the greatest turnarounds and most impressive coaching jobs of all time. Miami with the chance to rewrite their narrative. And then Landanning, Oregon, who has never won a national championship. This could be their first as well. So it's an interesting field, man. Anything in particular stand out to you?
A lot of fun storylines. I think whoever wins between between Oregon and Indiana wins the national championship. And that gives potentially the Big Ten its third straight different national champion.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, tell me if you agree. I think I know you pretty well. Are we all in on Indiana? Like, 100%. Just keep it in the Midwest where football belongs. It goes Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. The last 3 national championships. Indiana also been in the Big Ten far longer than Oregon. So you've got some rooting interest there. Feels like a more homegrown Big Ten team. That's where my allegiance lies. Not to mention, we're not going to do this on this pod, but if we were doing a quick impromptu power ranking of best coaches now, what does this Cignetti run do for it? Like, is it still smart or is Cignetti at 1 now? Because this is insane.
I think you have to put Cignetti at 1.
I think you have to put him up at 1.
If this team goes 16-0 and wins the national championship and beats Landanning twice, beats Ryan Day, beats Alabama in the Rose Bowl by 35, just marches through the tournament, it has to be the ultimate coaching job, because then you look back, his only losses in his first 2 years at Indiana would be national champion Ohio State and national runner-up Notre Dame in his first season. And that's it.
Yeah, and I mean, Curt Cignetti, who even when he's up 35 looks like a disgruntled bureaucrat in Whoville,
I love him.
Like I mean, I love him too. I don't think that man's ever been happy in his life.
No.
And yeah, I mean, there's like a 70-point difference in the talent gap index thing that they do, looking at like recruiting rankings and stuff between Indiana and Alabama. Absolutely insane stuff. Destroyed them too, embarrassed them in the
Yep.
words of Kirk Herbstreit and Fowler there, and basically did. So I'm with you. I'm ready. If Signetti finishes this out, I'm moving him ahead of Smart. I'm putting him firmly at the number one position. Indiana, just you never in a million years would have seen this coming if I told you this was happening 3 years ago. So it's an incredible coaching job. The narrative being rewritten at Miami, even if they don't finish this out, we were proven wrong as we
Yep.
didn't think they'd even make the playoffs because we were counting on them to choke. They're picking up steam and getting better as this goes along. Really, the only team that you kind of thought might be there is this Oregon team,
Yep.
you know. And Ole Miss, I'm sure some people saw that, but then after the Lane Kiffin move, I think a lot of people are surprised by that. So it's a fun field, man. It's a fun field. Give me Indiana to win it out. That would be deserving, and it would be right up there with the Michigan season for best season we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, either Indiana versus Ole Miss or Miami feels like such a win for college football. Just getting
Yeah.
some variance at the top. I think it'd be a fun matchup. I'm all the way back in on Ruben Bain. That performance against Ohio State was unbelievable. And like, even when he's not getting the sack numbers that you would like to see, he's just causing havoc, mayhem, setting the edge, destroying run plays. Messidor as well, though. Like, don't sleep on Messidor. Messidor was an absolute stud on that defense. I was just very surprised that the Ohio State we saw all year just get absolutely bullied on both lines of scrimmage in their final two games. And Miami did it to him in this one, but Indiana kept that up as well and just bullied Alabama on both lines of scrimmage as well. So I think we're seeing that trend continue, that like no matter what happens in football, no matter how different it gets with the transfer portal, with NIL, you win in the trenches, you're going to win the game.
Yeah, and seeing it happen in back-to-back weeks, obviously hindsight being 2020, but to take this back to Michigan, Michigan's inability to bully Ohio
Yep.
State should have been a red flag. It's like, okay, why did we completely lose this? Indiana's able to do it, Miami's able to do it. And, you can make some excuses as we did at the time. That's what we do is like, Derek Moore didn't quite get there. We missed here or there. But that's all a part of it. Michigan
Yep.
really lost that edge, and Indiana certainly has it right now. So, fun field there. Talk to me about some hockey, brother. I haven't been able to keep up as much overseas here.
A lot is going on in the world of Michigan hockey. A quick World Juniors update. Team USA and four Wolverines were upset in the quarterfinals in overtime by Finland, so the hopes of a three-peat are gone. Team Canada, however, featuring Michael Hayes and Jack Ivankovic, who took over as the starter in the second game, they are in the semifinals against the Czech Republic tonight. So still have a chance to bring home gold for Canada. Back in Ann Arbor, Michigan beat the U.S. National Team Development Program 7-5 in exhibition play with no fourth line and Tyler Duke playing left wing. So, despite having a depleted roster due to World Juniors participation, still got the job done, shake some of the rust off before getting back into conference play next week against Notre Dame. Lastly, four Wolverines, or former Wolverines, were named to Team USA. Quinn Hughes, Zach Werenski, Dylan Larkin, and Kyle Connor as the home team looks to claim gold for the first time since 1980 in the Olympics next month.
Let's go. Fascinating. Can you imagine if college football had something like that on the schedule? It's like, all right, and then we take a month off and we're playing the developmental team of Ghana in a warm-up game to get back into up to speed. Yeah, fascinating schedule quirk there. But yeah, good to see the Wolverines well represented across the board in international play. I imagine that's something that's just going to continue with what we're building there. And don't let the fact that the Michigan basketball team is an absolute warship distract you from the fact that so is this hockey team. So excited to keep up with that as we push through this. What's the next big game for the Wolverine hockey team?
So they have a couple weeks to start back into Big Ten play a little bit easy. I believe it's Notre Dame, then Minnesota. And honestly, they have a bye week sandwiched right in there. But the last half of the season is the tough stretch. I think you see Penn State again, you see Wisconsin again, you see Michigan State again. The team was originally scheduled to also have a bye the last week of the regular season before the Big Ten tournament, but Michigan added an exhibition game there, which I appreciate because you want to stay fresh, you want to stay sharp. So they have one extra game they've added onto their schedule to eliminate that gap, keep the boys sharp, get the momentum up before Big Ten play. But as of right now, the team, I believe they only need 2 wins to match last season's win total. So they could have that wrapped up by next weekend.
Fascinating stuff. And yeah, worth mentioning too that the college football playoff teams that get a bye are, what is it, 1-7 now overall. Having that extra week off, I don't necessarily know that it benefits you.
I,
Stay in game shape kind of thing.
I think that stat's a little misleading though, because last year all of the bye teams were underdogs.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Just the way that it lined up, and yeah, that's totally fair. But nonetheless, that's the way that it's played out. Probably change up if you gave those bye week teams a home game as an
I just
aside
don't
there as well.
understand why we're giving these bye teams 25 days off. Like you and I have
Way too
complained
long.
about the calendar all the time. I don't want to hear the finals excuse. Like this thing should be a week off max for those teams, very similar to the NFL, and then get right back into football. We should have this thing wrapped up by January 1st.
Totally with you, brother. Talk to me about women's basketball.
Man, we took a loss. We took a loss, but it's okay. It's okay. So the women's team on their road trip, they beat Oregon in double overtime. Silas Swords had 18. Olivia Olson had 18. Hand the Ducks only their third loss of the season, but fell to Washington on the second leg of the road trip 2 days later. They were still exhausted from the Oregon game, especially the extra periods, but showed some good fight in this game. They were getting kind of run off the court early on, but they cut a 20-point deficit to 5 in the fourth quarter. So it's okay. Washington's a very good team. I believe they're 12-2, 11-2 on the season. The Michigan women are now 11-2, and they'll look to bounce back against Minnesota at home tomorrow and will likely stay in the top 10.
To quote Vinny Paz of Jedi Mind Tricks, if I take an L, I take an L, and that's on me. 11-2, still a great place to be for an up and coming women's basketball team. All right, brother, we have got a juicy podcast for you here with all the turnover, all the coaching staff and the roster here, as well as some potential targets that we're going to get into on this one. And then there's also a game to break down. Oh yeah, and the Michigan's men's basketball team might be a historically great team that we need to talk about. So it's time to get into it. Let's start here with transfers and departures. What we know, we'll start out on kind of a low note here because this list is growing. I'm sure by the time that this podcast comes out, it will be outdated at the speed in which this is happening. It's a large list, but it's still nowhere close to what's happening at Penn State. I do anticipate it will keep growing. Also, some of these guys could come back. Notably, some guys have mentioned they're going to keep their options open. So I'm going to run through the list for you, and then we'll go back and kind of talk about some of these guys as befits their station. Elijah Dotson, defensive back, he'll be transferring. Cole Sullivan announced that he is visiting Oklahoma, intends to transfer. He's one of the guys that they say watch out for a potential return. Andrew Sprague, no contact with him. Offensive lineman, Etta, defensive lineman, has entered the transfer portal. Jake Guarnera, Ben Roebuck on the offensive line, Zeke Berry, Samaj Morgan, Caden Strayhorn, offensive lineman, Devin Baxter, defensive lineman, Jasper Parker, freshman running back, and then tight end Brady Prescorn, defensive back Jaden Mangum, and Marlon Klein is entering the draft. Is there anyone that I missed?
No, I believe that is up to date as of now. I mean, you could talk about CJ Hester, Freddie Moore. I believe there's a long snapper in there as well, but we don't need to waste time on that. But no, man, that's the list. And honestly, I was telling Tony this before we hopped on. Not that bad. Like you look at Iowa State that has 16 players on its roster right now from coaching turnover, and this
My
is what
God.
Michigan is right now. Like I thought it was going to be worse. I don't know how you felt about this, but I was anticipating much more floodgates opening, especially at certain position groups where we'll talk about some coaches were not retained.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of it to do with the coaches that were and were not retained. And I think that on the surface, you could be like, man, this is brutal. This is a gutting. But as we go through it and kind of talk about some of these guys, you're ultimately right that it could be a lot worse. Like I said, the Penn State, I think 36 transfers out of
Yeah.
Penn State. And this is, I think, 16 names that we mentioned there, something like that. So a difference of a delta of 20, pretty substantial there. Now, there could be more and there could be more disappointing ones. But when you see like Savion Hyder is currently in Ann Arbor,
Yep.
little things like that are going to buoy you and just be like, you know what, we're going to be okay. And some of the guys that we brought in, the coaching staff, which we'll talk about here in segment 3, I think will also be like, okay, we can anticipate some gains from those guys coming in. So, what, in your opinion, is the biggest loss here?
So it's It's almost
between
twofold.
two players in my mind.
Yeah, it's Guarnera or Cole Sullivan. It's Guarnera on the offensive line for me because the interior offensive line is such a position of need for Michigan. It's such a thin
Yes.
position group overall. I do like that he and Andrew Sprague both have no contacts, and I think it's smart to enter. Keep your options open. If you don't mesh with Jim Harding, the new offensive line coach, then you can leave. It's fine. I totally get that. That's how a lot of players work. Your relationship with the position coach is by far more important than with the head coach, to be honest. So I understand them keeping their options open. I don't put Sprague in the same panic meter as Guarnera just because Michigan is loaded at tackle. Like just off the top of my head, you already have Andrew Babalola, Blake Frazier, Ty Haywood, Evan Link right there, all competing for positions. On the interior, with the departures of Giovanni Alhadi and Greg Crippen as well, it's Nathan Afobe, it's Grady Norton, and that's it. So it's like it gets thin really fast in terms of like, okay, we're going to go down to Avery Gack. We're going to get him in there in the mix. We is completely unproven. So losing like Caden Strayhorn's kind of factored in there as well. We saw him a little bit in the bowl game, but Guarnera, who we thought was going to be the center of the future, that's the one that jumps out to me as number one because similar to I talked about the tackle position, we also have depth at the linebacker position.
Yeah, we do. If I knew what was going to happen with Jimmy Rolder, I could more properly rank this. If Jimmy Rolder's able to get another year and comes back, that really helps ease
Yes.
the loss of Sullivan. There is also, plenty of linebacker transfers to be had out there as well as our current depth. I'm with you on the top two. I also would be okay if this forces them to go get a true center that is tried and true, something that I've been banging the table
Yeah.
for the last couple years. Maybe it does so, but Guarnera could also slide to either of the guard spots. I think he's pretty
Yeah.
versatile, so that loss will be felt. That one is a bummer. Cole Sullivan, just a playmaker, a magnet for the ball. Like we said, visiting Oklahoma, I think that would be a hand in glove fit, and it would be a bummer to see him go to an opponent that we see. So we would see him again next year. Don't love that, and you might see me maybe start to do a little Benedict Sullivan talk if he goes to a team we're about to play. But got to do what's best for you. I understand at the time of his transfer, we didn't even have linebacker coach Alex Whittingham in hand. So we'll see if they are able to build some type of rapport there
Yeah.
in a short amount of time. Zeke Berry, I think, deserves to be mentioned here. Your mileage may vary on Zeke Berry, but he's a two-time All Big Ten selection, played the third most amount of snaps on the team, and he's very physical. If you told me who we're getting to replace him, I might be among the throngs of people that are like, we're not going to miss him. I disagree with that. If you can get that many snaps, if you can get a physical player who can hold up, maybe he doesn't have to be your number one corner, depending on what happens with some of these other guys. I think Zeke Berry's a loss as well.
He's the next tier for me, mainly because he only has 1 year of eligibility left. Like the other
Sure.
guys could be multiple year starters coming back and really building towards that foundation. And until we get the Jair Hill news as well on the other side of the corner, I'm not going to be as panicked. Like it's a loss. It's definitely the next one, but I just don't think it falls in the same category as losing a Cole Sullivan or a Guarnera for the future.
Yeah, to me, it's like a half tier break. If we were to redraft, right before the bowl game and everything was as is, who would go higher, Guarnera or Barry? Probably Guarnera because of the
Guarnera.
lack of depth. But as far as who's a better player, I think there's an interesting argument there. Who's the more important player, Guarnera, because of the depth? But there's likely going to be a semi rebuild happening. Actually, no, not likely and not semi.
It's
There is a
happening.
rebuild happening on this offensive line, and it starts with Balboa and Ty Haywood, who are the names you really need to retain there. And with Andrew Sprague, yeah, that's one where you hear the news and you're bummed because of the starts and the snaps that he had this year. But then you kind of think about it and you do the math and you're like, well, was he even going to start this next coming year? Is that your sixth offensive lineman? Could he beat out Ty Haywood? I don't think he could beat out Andy Babs. By the sound of it, sound like Andy Babs was in line to start, and he's too big to kick inside. So the Sprague one kind of seems like a writing on the wall one.
There's several of those players to me, to be honest. Like you look at the rest of the list here that you mentioned at the top, like Jasper Parker, writings on the wall there with where Bryson Cusdahl and Savion Hyder coming in. So he knows he's not going to get snaps. Brady Prescorn, injuries unfortunately derailed what could have
That
been a
one
good
bums me out.
career. But
I
there's
know.
already, even with the loss of Marlon Klein declaring for the NFL, you're still behind Jalen Hoffman, Zach Marshall, Deacon Tonielli. Hogan Hansen made his return in the Citrus Bowl. So he's already fighting an uphill battle for snaps. So that's another one as well where he can just see the writing on the wall and be like, okay, I need to go somewhere else just because that's how these rosters shake out.
Yeah, it is. Eno Etta kind of bums me out a little bit. A guy we were slowly coming around on and didn't take the big leap. You know, he was highly recruited, and we're like, when is this guy going to become the guy? But he took the slow and steady path and was just kind of a rotational guy. And I like guys like that, the workman-like approach. But Eno Etta, let's be honest here, this isn't a game-changing type of loss. Come on, man. Just let me have my guys. Just let me have my guys that I like. I don't even think I ever saw the field, and that one hurts.
He played 3 games this year, mostly on special teams and in
Some
garbage
mild
time,
fun.
some mild fun. But there's players, man, like Jaden Mangum, Eno Etta. I'm just not gonna miss. Like, we can do better than that. Like,
We
if
can.
you're like quoting Crazy Stupid Love, be better than the gap. Like, we need to be better than Eno Etta. We can get something else on the interior here. And maybe I'm just soured by the most recent game we watched across several positions. But like, I want to refresh. I want to restart at a lot of these. I think we can do better than what we were playing with last year. We can upgrade this roster, whether it's terms of experience or younger guys coming in and getting more reps. You can get them there. And speaking of upgrading at positions, Samaj Morgan is gone.
The witch is gone.
The witch is gone.
The witch is dead. I feel terrible. Just like wishing on the downfall, but it's preposterous. And we're going to talk about the Citrus Bowl results and how different things looked on special teams. It's madness. It's madness. And we were starting to say it towards the end of the season that it was becoming a blemish on Sharon Moore, that he was even still out there. It was a blemish towards the end.
Bro, that's
and
like the last blemish now. It's so funny.
Yeah, like that's the best thing he did in hindsight. Like, that's actually commendable compared to everything else he did. But yeah, I wish him well. And it's so, I hate just shitting on our own players like this, but
I know
he was put in bad situations. He shouldn't have been kept being put out there when his confidence was rocked. And
he threw a pass in the Citrus Bowl.
Brother, I got nothing for you. But I mean, trying to send him out on a positive note, but do positive things at Central Michigan. I wish him all the best. Other guys, Elijah Dotson, writing on the wall guy for sure, with Jaden Sanders and Shamari Earls. Hopefully we can keep both of those guys. I absolutely smoked you in our poll of who would you rather keep, Andrew Marsh or both of those guys.
I am shocked that our fans would want that. I am shocked that they would want that.
Oh, however, so everyone else is dumb. Andy is smart. You hear that, listeners?
However, after the Citrus Bowl, like, I'm a little more onto that side. Like, except I wanted to get rid of both position coaches. Like, I just did not want Lamar Morgan back in the building, no matter what the cost was. I thought he did a very poorish job this season with the secondary.
Yeah, I only wanted him for what he could retain. Same with Bellamy. As far as coaches, neither one really excited me, but I do want to bring back those players. But then it's like, you're bringing them back. What are you losing with development? Would you rather have an excellent developer that's a marginal recruiter? That's a fun exercise, and we could look around and
I would rather have that. Case in point, Indiana.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I mean, that's more talent evaluation with how many transfers they brought in. But yeah, I would rather have that.
Well, there's a lot of James Madison guys there. So that's development.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. Both on the coaching staff and in the room. I don't know how many of those James Madison guys were left this year. I think they
still had a lot. Pons is James Madison, and Aiden Fisher's James Madison, and Kamara's James Madison. 3 of their best defenders.
No, you're right. Development, and I mean, we had the best of both worlds with Harbaugh, but alas, how many more years on that no-show clause? Can he come back after the Whittingham? I think it's like we need like one more bridge coach after Whittingham, and then we can get Harbaugh back.
I have a Harbaugh signed jersey behind me. The Harbaugh era, it came, went, it was great. We don't need him back ever. Like, I don't need to go through all the scandals again. Don't need all that. We got I want to leave it where it was. We had
his scandals, wholesome scandals.
We left on such a high with him. Like, let's just leave it there.
That's true. But, a lot of what our conversation is today and last week and the previous week is, would you rather have the bird in the hand or the 2 in the bush kind of thing? And proven commodity, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
You've been a big Bush guy recently. I've noticed that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm in Europe. Marlon Klein entering the draft. The position is going to need a transfer or one of these freshmen to hit. This position, which didn't really live up to expectations this year, some of it due to injury, actually a decent amount due to injury. Yeah. Klein was out for quite a bit. Prieskorn never really got his footing there. Hansen was out for, this position group really, really underperformed this year. And with Marlon Klein going, I can't say I blame him. I think he'll test well. I think he'll be like physically a specimen at the combine. The numbers don't suggest that it'll go highly, but we saw enough to suggest that this guy could have an NFL career. So I can't really hate on Klein doing this.
He seems like a strong middle round pick, especially like if you
Yeah,
don't know how your relationship's going to be with the new tight end coach. Strike while the iron's hot. He's going to the Senior Bowl, which I think is a very smart move on his part. So you can have some good on good tape to put there in practice. And then I think he's going to test exceptional well at the combine. I'm with you there. And then it's probably going to be, a fourth or fifth round guy, and he's going to have a shot. I mean, look at AJ
look at
Barner
AJ
right
Barner.
now.
Yep.
That's exactly right. I think it could be very similar to that.
I think so as well. I mean, we saw stuff. What was it? The Oklahoma? No, it was the opening week.
New Mexico.
New Mexico, yeah, where he was like showing some stuff as a pass catcher. You know what he brings as a blocker? I would say above a willing blocker, so above neutral as a blocker. So I would be excited if I could get him in the 4th or 5th round to see what he could be for me. And certainly wishing him the best and with the turnover that we have. Although, again, we're going to get to the coaching staff here. Utah also likes to use their tight ends and has had some success under Kyle Whittingham there. Anybody else outgoing wise you want to talk about before we get into potential targets?
No, but I would like to caution the listeners to watch for more defensive backs entering the portal. Other position
we're not done yet.
So it could be some more offensive linemen. Losing those position coaches could lead to more of that. But this is not bad. Like, whose names do we not see here? Bryce Underwood, Andrew Marsh, Jordan Marshall, like some big
Andrew Babalola.
There's some Jair Hill, Rod Moore, some really big names you don't see on this list, which was worst case scenario. I was definitely afraid that I was going to wake up on January 2nd and see Andrew Marsh is in the portal, Bryce Underwood's in the portal, like exploring their options. And now I have to wait for one of my least favorite tweets. That's Bryce Underwood and Andrew Marsh have re-signed with Michigan. So I hate the world we live in, but as long as they're back in Ann Arbor, I guess it's the price we have to pay.
Yeah, no, it's just like David Fincher straight to streaming. I'm like, what is this? I don't want to live in this world anymore. Whatever.
I hate this.
I didn't sign up for any of it.
In terms of coaching changes, this has been a very mild turnover.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And, next podcast, we could come back head in our hands, pouting over some loss. But as it stands right now, we knew this defense was going to be a giant rebuild anyway. So on the defense, there's nothing that really frightens me. I'd like to keep Barry just to have some semblance of continuity and like at least a known commodity there.
It's a lot of snaps too.
It's a lot of snaps that would be coming back. So now we're just replacing a ton, but the Cignetti model, it can be done. You can replace an entire defense in 1 year in the transfer portal, and the cupboard is not bare with some of these recruits. Let's see if we can keep the Marshalls and guys like that. So excited to see what comes from it. So talking potential targets, there's already some names that Michigan fans should be aware of. I'm going to start here with John Henry Daly, defensive end from Utah, known as the mayor of Salt Lake City locally, just a stud. Also, his name is John Henry, which I'm pretty sure in American mythos is the guy that beat out the machine to build
the machine. Yeah, hell yeah, he did.
It was this John guy. Henry. Yeah, this guy. This was him. So yep, there's also Kalolu Taaga. Apologies if I butchered that name. Defensive tackle from Utah. Smith Snowden, corner from Utah. Widely regarded, highly regarded. Also, cool name. All these names actually would fit in with the all-name team that's mostly still intact coming to Michigan. Pau Johnson, safety from Utah. Wyatt Young, wide receiver, North Texas, already scheduled to visit to Michigan. 3rd leading receiver in the country for the wildly entertaining North Texas team that you and I have watched a decent amount of, probably more than we should have this year. Slot Demon. This would be next to Marsh, immediately better at wide receiver if you get this guy named to watch there. And
same
then Andrew
hometown
Olesh,
as Marsh too.
Same hometown as Marsh. Good call, Katy, Texas. Also, Andrew Olesh, formerly a Michigan target, committed with Penn State, was released from, or no, he actually decommitted because he was there. But he's a former 5-star as well. I haven't heard anything about that one, but being as how he was a previous Michigan target, I'd keep an eye on that. Anybody else you've heard in the rumor mill?
A couple from Utah's class this year that you could see opt out of their NLIs is their top 2 commits. Kelvin Obot is a 4-5-star fringe offensive tackle, 6'5", 265. And then I'm going to butcher this name. Salase Moa is a fringe 4-star, 5-star wide receiver and is 6'1", 190. There's some incredible tape of him at camps working on high level DBs and putting some things out there that you can get excited about. And then one more to keep an eye on is their other 4-star, 5-star offensive tackle, Matai Benjamin, who is 7'3", 315. So if
Oof.
you're worried about losing 6'7" Ben Roebuck, I have another one coming for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So we could really fail forward at the wide receiver position, losing Zion Robinson. But if you bring in Wyatt Young, third leading receiver in the country to replace Samaj Morgan, bring back Andrew Marsh, and then maybe flip that Utah kid while also bringing in Travis Johnson, who did reaffirm his commitment to Michigan. So
Yep.
expect Travis Johnson to come to Ann Arbor. You really failed forward. That is a dramatically better wide receiver room. And just like right out of the gate, assuming we get Wyatt Young, I really hope they can get that one done. I think this offense is still going to be in really good shape. I really do. This offensive line is now a bit of a rebuild, but Jim Harding, and we're going to talk about that here in this next segment. Like I trust the track record there with the offensive line, and there are skill positions to be had here. There's skill positions all over, both in the transfer portal and already on the Michigan roster. So I think I still look at this offense as the centerpiece next year, particularly
Yeah.
with what Utah was able to do last year, how they were able to run the ball. Got to get some offensive linemen. That's going to be key. We don't have those names yet, or I don't have those names yet of who they could be identifying. I'm sure by the next pod, we'll have a little bit clearer outlook of who they want to get, who they want to identify. We need a center. We need some interior offensive linemen. If you could bring back Guarnara, that's great. Andy Babs, Ty Haywood, you're off and running. But yeah, I'm still excited about what this offense could be. Need to fill in some gaps in the transfer portal on the line.
And one good thing about where the roster stands now as it pertains to the offensive line is that it's tackle heavy. And tackles can more often than not kick inside than far easier than guards can kick outside. So I think next year you could see perhaps Evan Link move to guard next year, play left guard on that
That's
side of the
happening.
line.
If he
That
stays, that's happening.
and that's his future anyway at the next level. I think
Yeah.
he's going to be better in a tight space. So I think you could have an
Could be a
answer there.
Runyon-esque type of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Maybe you could see Blake Frazier on the other side or Haywood on the other side. So there's options there. So like although it looks very one position heavy, these guys can kick on the inside and have success. And I trust Jim Harding wholeheartedly to figure this room out, get them going in the best direction. And I know people are a little upset right now, or maybe just frustrated or impatient. Like, why isn't Michigan in on more guys? It's because a lot of these coaching staffs have identified players in the transfer portal for the last 6 weeks. We just finalized our coaching staff yesterday, 2 days ago. So it's like they're playing catch up right now. I anticipate that to be quickly rectified, that situation to come full circle. I believe Sean McGee is staying. So I think that's a boost at least. So he should have been working on that front to help identify some players already. So I think that's why you see the North Texas kid being already chauffeured in on visit. So you're going to see this process speed up really fast.
Yeah, that's a great call out about the timing of it. Michigan behind the eight ball a little bit. I would imagine then, if this is just a guess, I don't have information on this, that they're going to lean on the guys from Utah and BYU who are just naturally entering the transfer portal and hope to do well there. Focus on the guys that they had already been recruiting and see if maybe they want to come. Kyle Whittingham has said he doesn't want to do anything along the lines of tampering, but if those guys enter the transfer portal, if they decommit on their own volition, we're going to go that way. So I would definitely keep an eye out. And for me, it starts at the top. If you can get John Henry Daly and if you can get Kalolo Taga, that's a really good start to rebuilding your defensive line. John Henry Daly is better than anyone on the Michigan defensive line this year.
Yes.
So it would be immediately the best player probably on that entire defense, unless you get a healthy Rod Moore back next year. Oh, that would be a huge start. So that's the domino to watch for, in my opinion. John Henry Daly, land him. We're off and running. And then, build out from the inside out on the defensive line.
You have to get some names on defensive tackle sooner than later because if Eno Etta is gone, your starting defensive tackles right now on paper are Trey Pierce
Ugh.
and Manuel Beagle.
Oh
That's it.
boy.
And then Benny Patterson working in, who got some snaps early this season, but they have to get the depth built back up there. Have to identify some guys like you got
Yeah.
to solidify
Tank
that.
will have to start
Yeah,
immediately.
yeah, yeah. So I think they're gonna have to go through that. Depend on maybe some young players. So again, your eyes are in the right spot. Like look on both lines of scrimmage where they're going to build this thing.
Yeah, yeah. If we were doing a quick draft of what is needed here, I think number one defensive lineman of some like
Tackle,
a starting caliber defensive lineman. Tackle probably over edge, but yes. And then number two, center.
probably. Yeah, I think I'm with you on both sides. Again, the interior as interior gets. Like
Yes.
you want a 0 to 3 tech on the inside of the defense, and you need a center on offense, whether that's Guarnera or somebody else.
Yeah, and then I look to the secondary, tight ends, things like that.
Yep.
So there's some needs, but like you said at the top, which we'll round out with here, could definitely be worse. Anything else you want to touch on as far as transfers out, transfers in before we take a quick break?
I think we covered it, man.
All right, man, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we will talk about this coaching staff, which is damn near finalized, if not finalized, as well as the Citrus Bowl and the Michigan men's basketball team, which has transcended wagon status. They are on warship status. We will be back right after this. All right, we are back. We are righteous men. College sports are very good. In the first half, we went through some of the upheaval happening on the roster, but let's talk about the future. Let's talk about what this Michigan program is going to look like for at least the next couple years under Kyle Whittingham as this staff has started to really round out. Not a lot of surprises here. Was kind of waiting for that Iowa domino to fall with
What is
what's
Seth
his name?
Wallace? Yeah,
Seth Wallace. Yeah, doesn't look like that's going to be happening, but I don't think there's really anything left to be decided unless I'm missing anything. I think this is the coaching staff we're going to roll with next year outside of maybe some analysts or
that's
some
the thing. Yeah.
assistants or things like that. So I'm going to run through what we know. Obviously, Kyle Whittingham at the top. He will be your head coach. Jason Beck coming over, joining Kyle Whittingham as OC, was there at Utah last year. We'll talk about what he was able to do. Jay Hill as your defensive coordinator coming over from BYU. Very excited about that. We'll talk about him at length as well. Jim Harding as your offensive line coach coming over from Utah. I know you're excited about that one.
Yes.
At running backs coach, Tony Alford has been retained. We touched on that. Quarterback coach Coy Detmer will be coming over to the staff also from, I think, Utah, but that could be
Yep.
BYU. I
Yep.
might
You're
have
right.
that one
It's
backward.
Utah.
Yeah, Utah as well. Defensive end coach Lou Powell will be coming over to do the same role from Utah, joining the other big Lou Esposito. So a pair of big Lou's on the line.
I love
That's
it.
what you hope for as a man, as a human. You hope for a pair of big Lou's, just pastrami sandwich in their knapsack as they go out onto the field. Excited about that. Cornerback coach will be Gennaro Guilford. He was doing the same role at BYU previously. As wide receiver coaches, there's a pair of them. Wide receiver coach will be Micah Simon from Utah. Assistant wide receiver coach will be Marcus Hagans, coming over from Penn State before that. At linebacker, it's going to be Kansas City Chiefs assistant D-line coach Alex Whittingham. Little nepotism happening there, but not a guy that is like totally fresh. I mean,
Of the Jay Harbaugh ilk.
yeah, of the Jay Harbaugh ilk, more so than pure nepotism. And then Kerry Coombs want to finish here the holdover, another holdover, baby. The Kerry Coombs era, just I'm such a fan of. I'm going to write a whole book about the Kerry Coombs era up to this point of Michigan football. Retained as special teams coordinator. I think that's a tremendous idea. Really smart by Whittingham and his staff. That pretty much sums it up, brother. Where do you want to start here? Who do you want to call out?
One more to add. We forgot to put in the doc. Freddie Whittingham, Kyle's brother at tight ends coach.
Oh, excuse me. Yes,
So
thank you.
one more to add there. I like the continuity. I like the vision of bringing the Utah staff, keeping most of them together from where they were last year, bring them over to Michigan, but also sprinkling in like a Tony Alford retention, because I think that was vital to keeping Savion Hyder in the building. And as we've seen since that was announced, Savion Hyder already reaffirmed his commitment
Yes.
to Michigan, getting to Ann Arbor. And I think if you're going to do a one-to-one, like to keep Jordan Marshall and Savion Hyder together for next season, the Tony Alford retention was one of the most important things you had to do with this team.
Just starting out with the most important things. We still don't know for sure about Bryce Underwood. That seems to be trending in a positive direction based on everything we heard, but just getting Savion Hyder. Haven't heard a thing about Jordan. Oh, no. Jordan Marshall tweeted some like encouraging words.
Yeah.
And, seldom is heard a discouraging word. So I like to hear that from Jordan Marshall. So yeah, I mean, that would be a tremendous start if you're able to keep those guys there. Yeah, I agree with you there that the combination of retention and then turnover, obviously way more new faces than old,
Yep.
probably a good call
It's the best.
given what's happening. And like Kerry Coombs had no idea what Kerry Coombs was like post all of this nonsense. So Kerry Coombs isn't associated with the disaster that was this season. So I would count him as a new hire as well. As far as what I'm most excited about, I'd like to start at the top with Jason Beck. I just think that Jason Beck coming over, they were fifth in scoring this season. They were second in rushing offense. And with what we have in the backfield, there's your identity next year. That, I mean, not that with anything surprising there, but had we have gone with your and I's first choice of Kalen DeBoer, after watching that last game, they couldn't run for piss. Like they couldn't run at all. And you know who's going to be able to run the ball is Jason Beck and Kyle Whittingham next year. So I'm really excited. That's where my excitement starts. How do you feel about Jason Beck as OC?
Very excited, man. I can't wait to dive into everything his offense does. I've already begun that a little bit. So I think it's going to be a nice fit here. But in that same hand, I like that they're just not going to forget about Bryce Underwood, which it felt like Sharon Moore and the staff did at previous times this season. They're bringing in a specific quarterback coach, and what's his name, Coy Detmer
Corey
Jr.
Detmer.
So this staff did not have a specific quarterback coach last year. They had Chip Lindsey trying to fill dual roles there. So I like just having a specific guy to work with them. He's very familiar with Jason Beck. They just did wonderful things this past year with Devin Dampier. Took him from, I believe, was 12 and 12 touchdowns to picks as a passer 2 years ago to 22 and 5 this year. So, like, even in a run first offense, he threw 22 touchdown passes. So I think Bryce Underwood's going to have a chance to take his next step as a passer, as a player, but by still keeping running the main thing in Michigan.
Had to be the case. Had to be the case. I'm assuming Coy Detmer and Ty Detmer are related because I remember Ty Detmer as an
His
NFL. Yeah, they
Coy
are. Yep,
Detmer's
just
dad
checked it up.
played as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is a quarterback family. There's a lot of lineage there. They are brothers, Coy Detmer and Ty Detmer. Coy Detmer also mostly a journeyman backup for Philadelphia for a lot of his career, but bringing in somebody specifically to work with the quarterbacks there. And we'll see what kind of commitment we get from Smeagol as well if he reaffirms his commitment and what this quarterback room is going to look like. Obviously, we know Jaden Davis is transferred out, but I like that there. And then Jim Harding as offensive line coach, as we're kind of talking about this offensive staff. I think the combination of Beck and Harding is extremely strong, as good as you could have hoped for with where we were hiring in the cycle. That's going to really create your offensive identity. I liked Grant Newsome, and this offensive line for Michigan really started to show some improvement late in the year. A lot of that went out the window versus Ohio State, but I know Jim Harding is a good offensive line coach. I know it. Like, that's where we get to that bird in the hand versus two in the bush. Yeah, Jim Harding is a dramatic upgrade.
Yeah, and the Coy Detmer, you pulled his dad. This is Coy Detmer Jr. He's even younger. This kid is late 20s, early 30s.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I just
Like,
remembered the name Ty Detmer. That was father. Okay. Here in Wikipedia, it says Coy Detmer,
that's his
younger
dad.
brother of four.
That's his dad. We have Coy Detmer Jr.
Oh,
That's his father. So Ty
okay.
Detmer's his
I'm
uncle.
old. Okay.
That's what it is. Like,
So this guy's young then. So
young.
Coy Detmer Jr.'s, yeah, must be very young then.
That's one thing I like about this. A lot of the position coaches, like some of the young, like on the younger side, the quarterbacks coach, wide receiver coach, are both young, energetic guys. I love bringing that energy to the team. But no, to your Jim Harding point, it starts on the offensive line. If you can't run block, if you can't pass protect, what's the point of any of this? And we're going to get in the Citrus Bowl a little bit. I just think we're going to have a massive upgrade there. I think Grant Newsome could be a good coach, but in terms of on the field development and production, I saw nothing to back that up. It was just people telling me he was good. He was good on the recruiting trail. That's undeniable. But on the field, this offensive line just got a hell of a lot better.
Jason Beck, Jim Harding, Tony Alford, that running back room, couple transfers on the offensive
Yes.
line, healthy Andy Babs. Let's roll.
Yeah.
Let's roll. Like, I'm in. I'm completely in on everything that just came out of my mouth on offense. And then Bryce Underwood, Andrew Marsh, get me Wyatt Young. That's tough, man. That would be, I don't know how good it is. The defense has so much work to do. It's way too early to say how good this team would be, but that would not be an offense I'd want to face. I can tell you that right now. That's a problem on offense.
Absolutely. Just one addition here, one addition there. This offense is going to be one of the best in the Big Ten. Defensively, it could be a 2-year project. We'll see. There's a lot of
Might be.
time left to address some issues. Have some big time recruits coming in Vallejo, Mikhail Blade, Carter Meadows. I think that's a big reason Lou Esposito was retained to keep this defensive line class together. So some of those guys could be getting on the field sooner than later. We'll see. But I love the start of this team, at least having an identity of we're going to run the damn football. And I think that's a great place to be.
You working with Vallejo PD on this? I can't wait.
All the Zodiac jokes we're going to get off with Vallejo on this team.
Just for you and I, and maybe like 6 of our listeners that are also really into the movie Zodiac, but you should be into the movie Zodiac if you're just a human being. Yeah, great call right off the top there about the defense. I'm a little nervous that you can get this defense built into playoff caliber with what we have now, where we're at in the cycle. I don't know. I'm a little bit skeptical there. We just need to get this thing to baseline level. Can you get your defense to top 35 with this amount of time? And then maybe it builds its way and gets better as the season goes along, as some of these young guys that hopefully are sticking around and some of the all name class, hopefully that's mostly stayed intact.
Yes.
And like, if you can get some of those guys in early and hit on a few guys there, my skepticism is certainly on the defensive side of the ball, but I love Jay Hill as the defensive coordinator. Really like that. He's a peg below Beck and Harding for me if I'm tearing up my levels of excitement, but I am excited to get a top 20 defense with BYU guys like not known as a football powerhouse. So really, really excited about what he could be bringing there. I don't know much about a lot of these position coaches. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know a lot about Lewis Powell or Gennaro Guilford. You can look at the numbers that they were putting up, and BYU in particular, a sound against the pass this year. So you can look at that and say, hopefully that transfers. But I am excited about maybe their ability to bring over some of these Utah transfers and things like that, and to fill some of these gaps this year. But starts at the top with Jay Hill, who I am excited about.
Jay Hill, who might be Michigan's next head coach. Just
Ooh,
put that out there. Just putting that out there. Keep an eye on that for a few years down the road. Could very much be the case. If there's a coach in waiting, we know he likes to do it defensively. He knows Jay Hill a lot longer. He's known Jason Beck. So keep an eye on that.
Are we going to let Kyle Whittingham make that call?
If he writes this program or brings a national championship, we might elect him governor.
Yeah, there's a lot of ifs and buts and candies and nuts in there, but all right, fine. Yeah, when we get our national championship with Kyle Whittingham, I will let him name his successor.
It's like he might even move up into the athletic department. Who knows? But again, I think there's a good chance Jay Hill is going to be a front runner for that position.
All right, Peter Pan over there.
When it comes around. But as it pertains to Jay Hill, we just saw the 2-year turnaround on defense at BYU. And that's kind of the goal for this team. That's the timeline we've been focusing on since Bryce Underwood got there of 2027. Like that's got to be the year. And this year they could be the same. It could be 9-3, 9-4. It's like, that would be great considering all the turnover and uncertainty and what they've overcome right now. But like 27's the focus. And that's like, as long Jay Hill's been proven to turn around a defense that fast with new faces, make the adjustments, get a full assessment of who's doing what. So I'm very optimistic for that year still being on track with his track record at BYU.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting too, because they're going to have to both hit the transfer portal, keep this recruiting class together, get some other recruits that they want, and there probably will be some more turnover in the recruiting class and some guys that they want to bring over that fit what they're trying to do as well. So I do expect that. But it's almost like when the director of Tombstone just like left while they were filming it, and Kurt Russell's like, I got this, I'll take it over. Like, how quickly can you put the pieces together and put your vision together? Can you do it this quickly? Like in 1 year already behind the 8 ball, as we mentioned, whereas a lot of these teams have gotten that head start. Now, granted, the teams that have gotten the head start, they didn't make the playoffs or have Michigan's timing. So, some of those though, like LSU as well, also just because of the coaching change, another late coaching change. So it'll be interesting to see. I think it's key to retain Lou Esposito as well, specifically because of what we have coming in the recruiting class. If you can keep that together or mostly together, totally worth it. And Big Lou's had success on the defensive line. Our struggles are not because of Big Lou.
I love keeping him for that class, and that's another reason I like keeping Kerry Coombs. Not just because of what we're going to talk about in the Citrus Bowl, is because he's been National Recruiter of the Year. He's been Big Ten Recruiter of the Year 3 times. He knows Ohio and the Midwest as well as any recruiter on the road. And just having those connections to be the introduction to Kyle Whittingham, I think is going to pay dividends immediately and well into the future. I thought that was a very shrewd retain by Whittingham.
It really is very shrewd. And like we were talking about Marcus Freeman, be like, no, too handsome. Can't be a coach. That's not what a coach look like. Kerry Coombs is what, in my mind, a coach looks like.
Good God,
Either
dude.
that or, yeah, or like a World War II like general, or at least like brigadier general or a lieutenant, an elderly lieutenant. That's what I imagine. And the Kerry Coombs era, I can't wait to start writing my book. It'll be out sometime next year. You can check in the Kerry Coombs era of 2025. What he was able to do in a couple weeks is dramatic. Andrew Marsh had 143 kick yard returns and 10 punt yard returns. I don't even want to tell you how much better that is than what we did throughout the season. It is a number. I don't even know what the number is, how many times better it is than what Samaj Morgan did. Where you might need to like do some long division here just to explain. I can see that you're on it. Producer Tony, earn your Christmas bonus. How much better was one game of Kerry Coombs versus an entire season of JB Brown if we're talking return yards? That's 153 yards total versus everything north of the second half of Ohio State when JB Brown finally reluctantly was like, okay, I'll put somebody else back there. But I don't, oh, he was gone by then. No, he was still there. He was still there, the fool.
He was there at Ohio State.
Shouldn't have been. Well, he shouldn't have been.
No, he shouldn't have been. I'll give you 2 years of JB Brown for that number, for God's sakes. And like, I think that's another thing that goes into having the benefit of having a veteran head coach who's hired staffs time and time again with Kyle Whittingham. Like, he knows what he's looking for. Sherrod Moore's like, hey, you're kind of a nice guy. You're funny. You're funny. Have some good Instagram connections. I'll bring you on.
JB Brown must have been effing hilarious.
Must have been something.
It's like the Steve Martin of special teams coordinators.
Must have been some, because I mean, honestly, a lot of these position coaches might have been, if we're being honest.
Yeah. No, it was looking pretty rough. And even if our former head coach hadn't threatened his own life with a butter knife, like, changes had to have been made.
Yeah.
And Kerry Coombs was a great start. I'll give credit to whoever made that decision. I'm assuming it's not Sherrod Moore because it's a good decision and he's not known for those. Kerry Coombs is a great decision. Kerry Coombs is a great hire. Retaining Kerry Coombs, I really like. You want to talk about getting the best of your guys. Andrew Marsh looked awesome as we kind of transitioned into the Citrus Bowl. Andrew Marsh looked incredible back there. And I know he had those early season hiccups, and we were saying you got to kind of get him out of there because he was carrying the ball way too far away from his body. But those were freshman things. As the season went along, I think you had to make that move back to him much, much earlier. And it was good to see him out there. That's a stud. He's too important to really put back there a lot next year, but you could. And if you did, you're talking about a potential top 3 weapon in the Big Ten next year in Andrew Marsh, when you consider what he's able to bring to the special teams unit. Jeremiah Smith's obviously coming back for one more year. That stands out. But aside from that, I don't know who really stands out to you. The freshman wide receiver at Oregon.
Jacorian Moore.
That kid's just, Jacorian Moore, that stands out. But then is it Andrew Marsh after that? Might be.
Could be. The numbers suggest otherwise. I mean, it suggests support that argument. And again, like, I think just Marsh alone, we kind of got into this a little bit last week, makes Ron Bellamy the coach you're probably going to miss the most. Like, because there could be attacks associated with that. A lot of other ones, though, like Kasula and the rest of the coaching staff, to put a bow on that conversation, I think there's either upgrades or they're not going to be missed. Like, it remains to be seen. There's no, like, oh, I can't believe we lost him. Like, it's like, okay, let's turn the page, new era, keep the continuity. But Marsh in this game, man, was just awesome. Like, he was fantastic. And like, if you're going to point to one guy that you're really excited about moving forward, it's kind of like the kick returner last year in the ReliaQuest Bowl, who had a big game that we were excited for. A Jordan Marshall, like, took over late in the year when finally healthy. So seeing that to build upon, it's like, okay, there's a piece, and now we can go from there.
Yeah, so in the Citrus Bowl, as we transition there, 41-27, Texas wins it. But this thing was a game up until about 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, kind of a symptom or a byproduct of the entire season, or a microcosm,
It
excuse
was
me,
a
of the
it was
entire
the
season.
complete encapsulation of the season,
It
dude. It
was
was
the
three
absolute
quarters of
microcosm.
great football, and then one quarter just fell apart.
Yeah, 100%. And like a lot of that's going to rest on Bryce Underwood's shoulders. But again, it's a true freshman quarterback. What do you really expect, even if he is a generational recruit? And that much is being put on him. We were running with our third string running back. The offensive line is not the offensive line that we expected to have out there. So running the ball really wasn't much of an option. Shout out to Bryson Cusdall for doing what he was able to do in this one. But yeah, no, the whole game was a microcosm of the season, but it was super enjoyable to watch. Like I enjoyed watching this game. It was fun up until late. It was very back and forth. It looks like it was a high scoring game, but really a lot of that happened. Like the big Arch Manning breakaway run kind of sealed this thing and made it look a little bit different than it did. But up until then, this was back and forth. These dudes were hitting. I don't
Yeah, it
know
was
if you
awesome.
felt the same
I
way.
loved
Like,
it.
yeah, it felt like these dudes on both sides really cared. You had 23 opt outs for Texas. Didn't feel that way. Felt like everyone was trying to get their opportunity. And that's the thing about the bowl games. And maybe the transfer portal, and we could look at this later on, is like it's this last bowl game is now like actually maybe the stakes rise a little bit for some of these guys because they're auditioning and they're saying like, hey, can I get a chance to go somewhere and get that playing time? Or would you maybe like consider somebody else transfer and I stay here and have more playing time next year, whatever it might be. But I thought it was competitive. I thought it was fun. Obviously, it's a bummer to lose, but we were playing with a coaching staff that, if I told you was the coaching staff 5 years ago, we were doing this podcast 5 years ago. If I would have told you 5 years ago this would be the coaching staff for a game that will go down in history, like the books will record Biff Poggi and John Jansen and Max Bredesen as coaches during this game, you would have laughed me off of the podcast. But yeah, John Jansen just comes down out of the booth to
Legend.
help coach the offensive line. Legend. Respect the sevens. I do, John Jansen. Bizarre game. They did the best that they could. I thought overall an entertaining game.
We had 5 replacement offensive linemen after the first possession, and Greg Crippen went out. Like, what are you going to do with that blocking for a true freshman quarterback and a third string running back? Like, okay, it's already going to be limited. I thought the team showed a lot of fight. The term meaningless bowl game is not real. It only pertains to fans. Like every player that's on the field, that game meant something because it's a game. They're competitors. They want to win. And back and forth, it was a fun game to watch. Like I love the twists and turns of it. And it was an exciting game. Like we talked about at the top, it's kind of like just the encapsulation of the season. 3 great quarters. It was fun, back and forth. 8 minutes to go in the fourth. It's a battle. And then it just gets away from us. Turnovers, freshman mistakes, everything kind of turns on its head. And it is what it is at the end of the day. But there was a lot to be encouraged about this performance, mistakes and all, from a bunch of young players moving forward.
Yeah, and before we go forward on that, producer Tony, known for being handsome and giving great massages, says that postseason game averages out to 5 times better than the regular season output. So if you want to know how much better Kerry Coombs is than JB Brown, let's start with 5 times better. 5 times. We're gonna go with that. A 430% increase in production. That is excellent time on task from Kerry Coombs. Great call retaining him. And yes, back to your earlier point there, I was trying not to read too much into anything because we just didn't know. Some of these guys could come in, have a great game, and still transfer. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to lean too much into this. There's certain guys that I'm pretty sure will be back. And, I'm going to look into that. Like Bryce Underwood was kind of the guy, and Andrew Marsh. You're like, what do we have here? Couple of the offensive linemen, especially as some guys went out. But nonetheless, you wanted to see how this team fought. So while a lot of these guys that played in this game may never play another snap for Michigan, or may play limited snaps, or may seem their roles usurped, I think it was still a lot of fight, and it showed that they're able to keep, for the most part, this team together and focused, which credit to Biff Poggi, credit to Wink Martindale, credit to these guys on the staff, and credit to the players, man. Credit
Yeah.
to the players. We want to say Michigan's different and like we do things differently here. This sort of thing and the way that they got up for this game, that will help and reinforce that.
I think it was a great culture building game, especially for the players that will stay for the next staff and transition over. They've been through one of the hardest, wackiest, wildest times in college football history with everything that happened with Sharon Moore, half the coaching staff leaving, players opting out, just an insane situation that caught all of us off guard. I can only imagine
We
how the
run
players felt.
SNL.
I
We
know.
led SNL.
Yeah.
Like, you want
It's
to talk about a situation that's unprecedented? That.
and they just and they still focused, came out here and performed and gave you enough to. I can't believe they even put something on the field. I thought when the Schroen
Dude.
news when the news broke, I thought they were just going to opt out of the bowl game. To be honest, I really did, because how can you focus on football when all of this is going around? You don't know about your future. You don't know anything anymore. You just feel so betrayed and blindsided by it. Then Chip Lindsey's on to his next job. You're losing other coaches, but then credit people like John Jansen stepping down, helping keep this thing together, keeping it moving forward for the next regime. So I think all the success that we're expecting Kyle Whittingham and this staff to bring in, or just like not just a complete failure, is due to a lot of these coaches and these players stepping up.
I worked for a startup a couple years back, and we knew that this thing was sinking. It was a sinking ship, and I really liked it. Was a dual CEO role, and one of them, like we kind of heard, was like losing it. He knew the business was closing, and he was like kind of partying a lot and maybe like failing, and like that reverberated through the employee base. Like we knew this was coming, and I totally checked out. And I was like, well, this
Yep.
guy doesn't care. I don't care. It's very easy when your leader is checked out and you lose your leader to like lose
Yep.
focus as the subordinate. And it was very easy for me to do. Shout out to all these guys who just didn't do that. Now, granted, their goals are much bigger and they're like, this is about getting to the NFL and things like that. But nonetheless, I was very impressed. And I know it's a loss. I know it's a loss to a Texas team that has a lot of turnover as well, but their situation is nowhere near as insane as ours. This is generationally stupid and silly what happened at Michigan. I can't wait to never talk about it again, once this is fully in our rear view mirror. So shout out to them. Anyone in particular you wanted to call out? I wanted to call out TJ Metcalf and Brandon Hillman. If you bring those guys back, that's one of the hardest hitting duos coming back in the Big Ten next year. I know hard hitting doesn't mean anything to anyone but Scott Frost, but I'd like it. I would enjoy it.
I mean, we have to teach Brandon Hillman that when you have the quarterback, you have the quarterback, and you can't just
Oh
let
my
him run
God.
past you.
I have this in all caps. You want to talk about things that showed their head all year long? Having key sacks in hand and letting the quarterback go. Oklahoma, Ohio State, Texas.
Well, he played the screen of the
No,
RPO, and it's like,
USC.
yeah,
USC more so than Ohio State.
your
Excuse me.
responsibility is the quarterback, Brandon Hillman. Like, don't play the screen, play the quarterback. And then Arch ran past, and then of course there's no safety because our safety was out of position. But again, when you talk about things to build upon and get coached, it's like that's what you look at with Hillman. Like, we can fix that. The hitting is something that's very innate to him and what he does in the game. It's like we get the right guy in there, and Jay Hill and them can build upon that. There's something to do with that player.
Some fundamental work.
I really liked Jordan Young had a big play in this game. Owusu Boateng had a big hit in this game on Arch Manning.
Keep the man.
There were several in this game, and if like you're down on Bryce Underwood, look no further than the quarterback across the field who was mocked across the country after his performance against Ohio State and Arch Manning. And he's a third-year player in his first year starting. So like Bryce is still super young and can develop. And you see what Arch Manning just did in a year and is probably going to be the front runner to win the Heisman rightfully next year based on what he can do. Like there's a ton to like from Underwood's game in this one. The throw to Kendrick Bell in the corner of the end zone. His feet are flat-footed next to each other. He's getting sacked because the offensive line didn't just let one player through. They let four through. He gets blasted and throws a beautiful touch pass over an outstretched defender for a touchdown, which is beautifully hauled in by Kendrick Bell, who I might be the only person still holding stock on. But to Bryce, there's a lot of talent there. It's only the fundamentals that need to get cleaned up, and those are correctable.
Yeah, I cleared out all the stock, but under cover of darkness, I asked my broker to pick up a couple shares again. His best catch of the season. Yeah, like we said at the top, pretty prototypical Bryce Young Underwood game. Excuse me. I've done that so many times, the Bryce Young thing, where he just makes some incredible throws. The Kendrick Bell throw being the best of the day, in my opinion, and then some just boneheaded turnovers. The footwork in this game was
Atrocious.
not good.
You
It
can
was
see the
really
lack of
not good.
coaching. Like, he hasn't had a coach the last month. With Chip Lindsey gone, that was the quarterback coach. Who's been working with him?
It's a very good point, man. It's a very good point, and that's tough for development
Yeah.
to just have like this bowl game period. Every podcast that covers a college football team will tell you how important this development period is, particularly for young quarterbacks and young offensive. Yeah, it's very, very critical. And not only did he lose his offensive coordinator, he didn't know who the next one was going to be. Lost
Yep.
his head coach, who was an offensive minded guy as well. If he sticks it out and comes back with this group and comes back better next year, I'm going to probably drop my guard on a lot of my like, I don't know about Bryce Underwood stuff. I've been heavily critical.
Mhm.
I've been heavily critical. And a lot of that is the NIL era. Like if you're making more, like you're making double what the best surgeon in America makes, like I expect some results. That's not his fault. I don't blame him for taking what was offered that to him, but then we're going to want to see results then, not like we're footing the
It's the
bill, but
expectation.
nonetheless, it's the expectation that comes with the job. But if you stick it out through this and stick it out through this much turnover and your coach leaving, you get a free transfer ability now with Sharon Moore being gone and him not take it and coming back. I think you're going to win me over a lot. And I've obviously been pulling for him for selfish reasons because I want Michigan to do well. But then you're going to have me just on a personal level like, okay, like I am excited for Bryce Underwood year 2. I am excited for what he can be. Everything that we've heard is extremely positive about him in the locker room, him as a leader, him keeping this team together. If he weathers this storm and comes back better for it, hell yeah, man. I'm on board all the way.
It would honestly make him a 101 in this era of
Yeah.
college football. Like, you come in, your coach leaves, you have nobody developing you for the last month. You're just out there, I don't know, hanging out at practice, throwing some balls. Maybe, I don't
What
know.
was coaching him? Like Max Bredesen's out there, John Jansen's out there. Like, is Michael Phelps just there because they had him on speed dial? Like, who's
Like,
out there? Sklar brothers, are you listening? Were you there?
and then not to mention, you're handing the ball to your third string running back, because I will say, shout out to Poggi and staff for not running Jordan Marshall in this game.
No.
Save the
What
hits.
would be the point?
Exactly.
100%.
Save the hits. I love that. And then you have your quarterback who's not been coached for a month playing behind 5 new offensive linemen. Like,
Yeah.
come
No,
on.
there's no question about it. Like, honestly, best case scenario for this game. I mean, had we have won, that's the best case scenario,
yeah.
but we got out relatively unscathed, no new major injuries, you know, from the coaches that we know are being retained. The Kerry Coombs thing has to be exciting, you know, so great to see what they were able to do there. And then, Bryson Cusdall, man, third string running back who didn't expect to play much this year and ended up playing against Ohio State and Texas as the starting
He had a
running back.
100-yard, 3-touchdown game against Maryland.
Yeah, like just ended up being a big part of this year. Real quick before we get into basketball and close this thing out, ultimately, when it's all said and done, how are we going to remember this year? Is it just the year of upheaval, the weird year? Is it very much like the COVID year where we look at it and we don't talk about it?
No, not a 9-win season is not something we just don't talk about. Like, there are still some good things in this year. It's very similar to the 2019 season, if I'm being honest. Like, there's some high moments and there's some low moments, but there's a mix in and out. But like, the thing we're going to remember the most, unfortunately, is how it ended with Sharon Moore. Like, that's going to be it. And it honestly kind of gives this season not an asterisk, but you view it with a grain of salt. Like, okay, this team was dealing with some behind the scenes, whether who knew what, that's all still being determined by the investigation. But a coach who's not 100% committed to football, and this team with 8 freshmen on offense still won 9 games in the Big Ten, the best conference in football.
Yeah, you're totally right, and it could be something where we don't know what it means until next year.
Yep.
Like if Jordan Marshall and Savion Hyder end up taking us to a playoff berth next year, we might look at it at like the build up year, like the year
Yep.
we got Bryce Underwood and Marshall and Hyder into place and built out our offensive line. It'll be impossible not to think back on this craziness as much as we as Michigan fans and podcasters don't want to talk about it. But ultimately, if you're leading SNL, if you're making national news, if you're just the top story in the news media for an entire day and going to continue to be, it's hard not to think back on that. But we're going to do our best not to, because we're here to cover ball and talk about ball, and we move forward. And I'm extremely excited about what we have in place moving forward. I'm extremely excited to talk about how we rebuild this defense. I'm extremely excited to see what we can get in the transfer portal. I'm very, very excited about what could be a top 8 offense next year, top 10 offense next year. If things really
With a
click,
better head
like
coach, flat out.
with a better head coach. Like there's things to be excited about. I like Joel Klatt talking on his podcast about just like the things needed Michigan needed to check off of their list in order to feel like this is a successful transition. He's like the odds of them checking all 3 boxes this late in the cycle was damn near impossible, and we did.
Yeah.
So you have to be excited about where we're going. 9 wins on the season, an absolute blemish of an off the field nonsensical story with it. Lots of talent,
A lot of talent.
lots of coaching experience, and a tough schedule. Certainly a tough schedule next year, but an interesting team to follow. One of the more interesting teams to look at next year. Variance is high, high floor and ceiling next year.
I would say not as much. I think the floor is very high with this team, just because
Whittingham gives you a high floor, but
adult.
like that's fair. That's fair. What did I text you? Lock the over under in at 8.5.
Yeah, seems
I
right.
feel like 7 is the floor.
Yeah.
8's the more likely floor. 9 is a really impressive season given that schedule.
Given that schedule, giving the turnover, and giving the situation, anything above 8 wins next year should be viewed as a step in the right direction.
Yep. I'm with you. Looking forward to talking about it, brother. Before we get out of here, we have surpassed Wagon status. Wagon, very impressive. You get it rolling downhill, very difficult to stop. You know what's harder to stop? A goddamn warship. And that is what the Michigan men's basketball team has on their hands after a 96-66 victory over ranked USC. It was silly last week. It was laughable the week before. I no longer know what it is. Michigan had beat McNeese State since we last spoke, 112-71. That one gave them 6 40-point wins in 7 games over 100. This is stupid. This is stupid now. This is not real. This is one of the best teams statistically ever to play the game. Let me give you this one real quick before I pass it over to you. Second highest KenPom rating ever. The number one, 1999 Duke with a plus 43.1. 2026 Michigan is second. The next 2 teams both belong to Duke. And then there's a Kentucky team in there, the 2015 Kentucky team, which would have been, who was that the Anthony Davis team?
No, that was Towns. That was the
that was the Towns team.
That was the Town. That was the 2 of those teams on there. The 2025 Duke team, no national title, and that Kentucky team went undefeated and then lost in the Final Four to Wisconsin.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's true. So, I mean, does not guarantee a national championship. Certainly doesn't. But this is already one of the greatest regular season teams I've ever seen. It's the greatest regular season team we've ever covered.
Yes.
Yaxel Lendenborg did go out with an injury in this one. Didn't matter. They still ran through it. My love for Morez Johnson, apparently I wasn't in enough. I should have been more in on Mojo. Stud.
It's you didn't even mention everything that went wrong in this game. Yax only played 2 minutes in the second half. Namari Burnett has to get stitches on his face because Roddy Gale landed on him kind of awkwardly. Adai Mara limited in the first half with 2 fouls. Roddy fouled out. This team couldn't shoot a lick in this game. And still, to start the game, USC did not score a single point until the 13:20 mark.
It's insane, dude. It's both sides of the ball. Their ability to get over 100 points, but this defensively focused and week in and week out to just not lose that edge.
Crazy.
Adai Mara and Morez Johnson, like, have fun driving in on that. And if Yaxel's out there as well, who's also no slouch and 6'9" in the paint, or Will Cheddar, it doesn't matter. Like, scoring in the paint on this team is a nightmare.
Yeah.
I just don't know how you really beat this team. Now, someone's going to do it. They're not going to go undefeated for the entire season, particularly if Yaxel's out for an extended period of time.
It's just a bruised calf. He'll be fine.
Oh, what a warship Dusty May has built. Just an absolute warship. Unassailable work happening right here. And this USC game was the one that we were watching. Like, McNeese State's going to be a tournament team. They win that one. And I'm like, okay, but like, all right, Big Ten play's about to start. favored by 22.5. Everyone's laughing at that. They win by 30 without Yaxel. Good God.
They don't play starters in the final 6 minutes.
They don't need them.
No.
Just get winners Grady minutes out there.
And they still cover. This is Michigan's 10th 25-point win of the regular season already.
What is happening, bro? We've
It's
not seen any team this dominant.
You run out of
Any
words.
sport.
You run out of words to describe this team. Like, it was like they were playing with their food against USC. USC was a 12-win team, only one loss of the year coming into this game, and Michigan just looked 5 levels ahead, like, at all times. Like, this game was never in doubt. There was never any question who was going to win. It just felt like this was a MAC school, honestly, that Michigan was toying with. And USC's a solid team. Like, they're probably going to make the tournament, at least be in contention right on the bubble to do so. And never a question. Just that much better. There's never a letdown defensively on this team, like with Elliot Cadeau hounding the ball every possession down the court. I believe USC's first 4 possessions were all turnovers in this game. Didn't even get a shot up.
Dude. Yeah, and like it is a tidal wave once Michigan starts turning you over and getting out on the break and just yamming it in your face. Like, it is demoralizing. They are a difficult team to play, and you can see the will drain from these teams when they get up 18 all of a sudden. And it's just like, how are we going to come back against them? Because not only can we not score, they've just got guys all over the place. It's like, wait, all of a sudden LJ Kaysen's in and that guy's making shots. Like, I forgot that guy was even there. It's like, yeah, no, this thing is deep. You could miss a couple guys and still get by. We're getting valuable minutes that I didn't think we'd get for Oscar Goodman and Winters Grady and guys like that. Trey McKinney getting just like a ton of minutes now and valuable. I just really like watching Trey McKinney play. Mojo becoming a, like, does he make the jump now guy? Really good draft class. I really hope that's something I got my eye on. Bring back Mojo for one more year because he's good enough now. He's like beef. Yeah. He's on the beef stew trajectory. Just my favorite type of player, by the way. I effing love Mojo. And I love Yaxel.
Yeah, LJ Kaysen shooting 50% from 3 since December 1st.
Stud.
Like this whole team, like, they just continue to develop, and like the way, like, looking at the schedule, I believe the record is 17-0 to start a season from the 17-18 national runner-up team. This team has a chance to get there. At the end of that, it culminates with a tough back-to-back of Washington at Oregon with some weird time stuff. I believe the Washington game's a 10:30 Eastern tip-off, and then Oregon back-to-back, but I think that would break the record. That would be 18 or right at 17. But this team has a chance to do it. They have Penn State coming up next, who's one of the lesser teams in the Big Ten, chance to get some momentum going. And you know a loss is coming. Like you said, they're not going to go undefeated. But like, if you're talking about a team on par with Kentucky that went undefeated until the Final Four, that 99 Duke team, which is one of the best teams ever. I mean, analytically they are. And it's like, you just see what they can do. Like, undefeated is not completely off the books. That's a crazy statement to say. I mean, there's probably a less than 10% chance, maybe a less than 5% chance, but it's non-zero.
Yeah, man. And for this to be a team that we're covering, and it's great given all that's happened on the football field to be like, okay, let's turn the page to basketball. What's going on with basketball? A historically great season, one of the best teams we've ever seen assembled. Sky is the limit. The only concern now is anything less than a national championship is going to feel like we fell a little bit short. Yeah. We were talking about this off air with Tony as well. It's a little bit different than basketball because I will still look at like a Final Four as like a really good season.
That's a good season.
Personally, because you get all those extra games and you're like, man, all the wins and like good Big Ten tournament appearance and things like that. Outright Big Ten title seeming very much in the grasp as well. It'll be a fantastic season, much needed. Dusty May, just a breath of fresh air, what they've done there. And yeah, man, the vibes are extremely high. It's extremely fun to watch. And football now, you know, Michigan's been out of it for a bit here. Last game has been played. Obviously, we'll keep going watching the playoffs and everything, but it's page turning time. And I'm pretty excited about these next couple pages.
Very excited being across basketball, women's basketball, and hockey. Michigan has a Final Four chance in all 3 sports, which is very rare.
Very rare indeed, man, and fun to watch as well. So, yeah, excited. Obviously, moving forward here, we'll start to turn the page. Next week, hope to have some transfers in, hopefully finish out the transfers out as we discuss that. year 25 of the century, we want to do a little bit of a wrap up. Our favorite movies of the 21st century, our top 25. We'll do those as we kind of wrap up some of the movies or the movie year in general and turn the page. But lots of football, lots of basketball, lots of hockey coming. We are entering the off season, which is where we really do our finest work. Thanks to everyone that tuned in with us this year for this football season. No, it didn't really go the way that we were hoping, given as the ship essentially sunk to the bottom of the Marianas Trench there. But y'all are some real ones. Appreciate all of you. We'll be back to do it all again in 2026. Anything else from you, sir?
No, follow us on all the socials, all the things, YouTube, the TikToks, all that. Get after us. We're everywhere.
Appreciate you. Yeah, absolutely do so. Shout out to producer Tony doing the Lord's work his first year here with us. Did some outstanding stuff. Thank you, sir. I am Jared. That is Andy. This is Out of the Blue. We'd like to remind you that wherever you go, go blue.